My name is Amanda Harris, and in this Pecha Kucha presentation, I'm going to be reporting results from the Share It project and talking about how new technologies can be used to support peer collaboration, and also how these technologies provide a useful means of observing developmental changes in children's collaborative abilities. Collaboration has been defined as a coordinated, synchronous activity that is the result of a continued attempt to construct and maintain a shared conception of a problem. For children, this process can be very challenging, as it is dependent on the ability to self-regulate behaviour in order to work in a coordinated manner, and to maintain joint attention with the social partner in order to maintain a shared focus. A lot of work has looked at infant social interactions, particularly peer play and parent-child interactions, and shown that as cognitive developmental changes occur over time, so do children's collaborative abilities and skills improve. Less work addresses peer collaboration in middle childhood, even though in the primary classroom, children spend a significant amount of time working with peers, as classrooms have changed in layout where children now sit in small groups around clusters of tables and share resources. A commonly shared resource in school is technology. Originally, computers were shared because they were limited in number, but now a new generation of educational technologies are being developed which have shareable interfaces. So 2 or more users have their own input devices and can interact simultaneously with the interface. Interactive touch tabletops are an example. These are horizontal tabletop surfaces which users stand around and, using touch as input, can interact with the digital content. It is claimed that this setup will facilitate collaborative interaction. We designed a planning task in order to observe the nature of children's collaborative interactions around such technology. The task involved groups of 3 designing a seating plan for their own classroom, but for a new class of children. They were given some information about each member of the new class, such as whether they were talkative, indicated by a speech bubble. The participants could then use this information to decide upon a good seating plan. The table could be configured in 2 ways: multiple touch, where all children could manipulate icons at the same time, and single touch, where only one child's input was recognised at a time. We had 45 participants in groups of 3. Groups were all same gender and same age. Our 2 conditions were single touch and multiple touch, and all groups did both conditions. Children's interactions and discussion were analysed by transcribing the videotaped sessions and applying a coding scheme which we developed specifically for the task. We coded the task according to different types of activity we observed. Broadly speaking, children either worked together, cooperatively or collaboratively, spent time observing others and onlooking, or undertook a part of the task alone and worked in parallel with the rest of the group. We also measured the relative contribution of group members as a measure of equity. We calculated Gini coefficients which indicate the degree of deviation from equal participation for each group. Lower scores indicate greater equity, as 0 is equal to no deviation from equal participation. Results for the activity codes show that the first 2 working together activities were relatively rare in duration, and there were no differences between touch conditions for these activities. Onlooker and parallel activity, on the other hand, were much more frequent overall and differed significantly according to condition. Onlooker behaviour was more frequent in the single touch condition than in the multiple touch, and parallel behaviour was more frequent in the multiple touch than the single touch. These 2 activities were also related to age in expected ways, and we also found an interaction with age and touch condition. Onlooker behaviour tended to become more frequent with age in general, but particularly so in the multiple touch condition. Parallel activity decreased with age overall, but this was particularly evident in the single touch condition. Moving on to the equity measures, generally interactions were reasonably equitable, with scores tending to be low, and there was no difference between touch conditions for either verbal or physical equity. Physical participation refers to the number of touches children made, so these, along with the number of utterances, were relatively equal within groups. However, as with the activity measures, we found important age associations in relation to equity. So verbal equity, which refers to the level of equal participation in discussion, increased with age, so the older children tended to be more equitable, and this was particularly evident in the single-touch condition. What do these results tell us about the process of collaboration in middle childhood? Firstly, they suggest that developmental changes in self-regulation and joint attention continue to come to bear on children's interactions into middle childhood. For younger children, the multiple touch condition, which did not constrain the focus of their attention, led to greater levels of working alone instead of maintaining a joint focus on the task at hand. However, self-regulation in the form of regulating turn-taking was a challenge for the younger children in both conditions. Younger children tended to be less equitable and skilled at turn-taking than older children, regardless of touch condition. The implications of this research are twofold. Firstly, technology is a useful tool through which to observe developmental processes in new ways. For example, our manipulation of multiple and single-touch conditions revealed interesting age-related associations in behaviour around the technology. Secondly, technology provides the potential to support developmental processes in new ways. For example, by constraining children's interactions with our tabletop such that one-at-a-time turn-taking was enforced, meant that children, particularly the younger children, were supported in maintaining a joint focus of attention.